Welcome to the Pineapple Pinup, the Hot Wife Life podcast. On today's podcast, we're going to talk about the party that I went to on Saturday. We're going to talk about my writing in the past and some epiphanies I've come to. And then I'm going to read you a writing that I wrote. Enjoy. Do you ever have one of those feelings? One of those things that tells you this is someplace you've gone before. This is a bad road. This, you know this. You have been here before. That sinking deja vu, that you have stumbled down the same path somehow, some way. Let me start at the very beginning. I had a date. This was back when my husband and I were still trying to set up dates, set up one-on-ones with, let's just be honest, flakes, ghosts, and fakes. We had tried to set this date up. We had set this date up with a gentleman who was a chef. And I think that's actually what I called him. And I think I've actually spoken about him before. So we had this date set up. And so we went to this pre-assigned date. And when we showed up, it was a surprise that we had shown up. And this gentleman was very surprised that we were there. And I was there with my husband. And I was dressed to the nines, okay? We're talking lingerie under a jacket kind of vibe. And we sat around and talked for about half an hour, 40 minutes, long enough for my husband to want to lose his mind because he was like, stop with the inane chitter chatter. And I was literally just trying to make the guy comfortable. And then when we finally got to the activity, he was so freaked out by the fact that we'd even fucking shown up that he wasn't able to perform. And he had me sucking his dick for a solid 30, 40 minutes because we were there like an hour and a half. So that's a long time to try to get somebody hard. That's a very long time to dedicate to that particular sport when their head's not in it. And I know that it was probably my husband being there that freaked him out, but don't sign up for something that you're not prepared for. Anyway, so it came down, it came around, and it was crazy. Okay, so that was time that we had spent doing this thing. And we went there, we did our best, and then we just called it a night, went got a sandwich. So let's cut to maybe 2-3 months later. And this same gentleman is having a party. He's having a party both Friday and Saturday night. We're invited. We can't make the Friday because life stuff. And so we decide to go on Saturday. So I show up, and I mean, I showed up. I was wearing a pink off-the-shoulder bodysuit with a black skirt and high-heeled boots. I looked adorable. It was great. Getting in and out of the car was the hardest part because we drove my husband's very low slung sports car. And then we went upstairs. And when we got to the party, it was this guy and another guy that I had met at another party. The pool party that went terribly, terribly awry. But the fact that that guy was there was probably the only saving grace. Because the chef was there and he was gacked out of his mind. I don't know what all he was on, but I know one of them was Viagra. And it was totally apparent that he was really drugged up to make this happen. Now, this gentleman and I we've had history, okay? So on Saturday night when I showed up for his party, the door opens, he's only half dressed. Now, we pulled into the parking lot and my husband and I both recognized the spot. And we're like, isn't this the place that we went that time? There's no way. The guy changed his name in the system. So he changed his name and it was completely different than it had been. So we were completely caught off guard. So we went upstairs and we met the guy and he instantly grabbed my boob. No, may I? No, hey, how are ya? Just grabbed my boob. Now, this is an environment where I understand that sometimes people cross a line. I was a little bit stunned, but I was like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. So we go in and I am feeling not quite there. Not quite. And I'm really trying to rally, really trying to get there because in one room, there's a lot of activity going on. In another room, there's chit chat going on. And then in the main room, because there were 2 play spaces, in the main room, it was just me and my husband. So me and my husband are sitting there waiting for anything to happen. And then a guy comes in and he is very, very high. You can smell the marijuana coming off of him. And he's very, very high. And he looked at me and I looked at him and it was like, all right, let's do this thing. That guy was amazing. I mean, that guy, he gave all of the things. Hard smacks to the ass, grips on the neck. He was slow and powerful and then fast and, it was like he altered his moves. There was a lot going on. And there were times when I was like, yikes. Wow. He was really, really, really good. And he came over and he fucked me. And then we sort of took a break. And when we took a break, I had expected others to come in, but nobody else came in. So I ended up talking to another couple that had come, and he was there to support her. And she had just been fucked 6 ways to Sunday by someone else. And she was having a great time. And then we started chatting, we started talking, and then nothing happened. So we both were like, okay. So my husband went to go get my robe and I was waiting there, just hanging out, trying to figure out what was going on. Our new friends decided to leave, unsure of what was going on. Finally, this other gentleman approached me and he wanted to play. And I said, okay, let's play. And I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to say this without sounding like a size queen. I don't think there's any way to say this without sounding like a size queen, but he kept slipping out, sliding across my clit, thinking he was inside. It's literally and then at one point he slipped down and was sliding across my asshole, thinking he was inside. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was happening. It was all very, very confusing. And at one point I looked at my husband, and that gentleman finished and he left. And my husband came over and I said, is it rude to tell somebody that they're not in? Because I honestly don't know in protocols like that. I don't know what to do in those situations, because I never, ever, ever want to make anyone feel bad about their performance. I never want to make anyone feel bad. But this kid, Wolverine, and that's what we're calling him, because that kid hadn't cut his nails in a hot fucking minute and kept scratching me and cutting me with his frickin' nails. So Wolverine had some things he needed to handle anyway. But my question is, at what point do you tell someone, hey, you're not actually in? You're running around the park, but you haven't gone into the park. So at what point do you tell people that? Is that something that you even need to say? If he's having a good time, if he's enjoying it. I mean, these are my questions. I'm not ever trying to make anyone feel bad, because here's the thing. The lifestyle's a rough hang, dude. It can be a rough hang if you are not the guy, if you're not the alpha at the party. It can be a rough hang. And so I never want to discourage anyone from showing up. But I also want to experience something too. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm still puzzled by that one. That one is still stumping me a little bit. And I haven't quite gotten there. I haven't quite gotten to the point where I understand what my role is in that particular instance. But anyway, my gentleman came back. My gentleman who had saved the party for me, he came back and fucked me. Fucked me so good. Fucked me with his hands around my throat. Fucked me from behind. Fucked me from just every angle you can imagine. Just fucked me and slapped my ass and just went really primal on me. And it was glorious. It was awesome. It was the kind of fucking that I really, really enjoy. And I ended up giving the guy my number, because that's actually how my husband and I meet people. My husband and I meet people, we go to a party, we have a good time, and then once we've proven that we have really good chemistry together, then we move to a different setting. So we gave him my number so that hopefully he will call. And if he doesn't, it's not a big deal. But at the same time, it was a lot of fun meeting him. So that was it. As soon as I finished playing with this guy the second time, my husband and I, somebody else had come to the party, and it was her first time. It was her first time at a party, and they were standing right outside the doors of the playrooms, and they were flirting terribly. I mean, badly. Like, I've never done this before. Can I don't understand the rules. And then being like, well, I'm super smart. I don't actually need you to tell me how life works. So my problem is that listening to bad flirting, and the guys, I couldn't really hear what they were saying because they were all mumbling, super cool, man, and I was just like, yeah, I'm done. So we ended up leaving, and I'd only really played with Wolverine for whatever play that was, and then this other gentleman. And that was enough. Sometimes you got to cut your losses and get the hell out. Now, we go to parties with a certain party group. We go to a lot of parties with them. And the gentleman who runs that party has a list of rules that he puts into every single one of his events. And what happened was, Chef went and copied and pasted those rules directly into his party. Like, didn't even try to fake that he wasn't straight up stealing it. Which, because we were going to this party, our regular party host had interest in what we were doing, went and checked it out, realized that this guy had verbatim stole his shit, and decided to call him out. So he sent him messages, and the guy's like, what, you want compensation? The thing is that don't steal intellectual property. Come up with your own. Maybe we do that. Maybe that's what we do. So I get it. I like it. Just sometimes when there are red flags, okay, instead of powering through, instead of when you've got that sixth sense of deja vu, and that's like, I've been down this road, this was a bad road, maybe you turn around and stop going down that road. Now, mind you, this is something me and my husband really need to work on because we need to set our boundaries a little bit more firmly in the ground, because my husband was even like, dude, and then the guy had asked him to bring ice, and it was like, dude, and then it was just like, it was weird. It was very, everything we did was like deja vu, and I remember going here, and I remember doing this, and it was all a very weird sense of, and strike three, man. Like, strike three. Because what's really crazy is the picture that he has on his profile is not even him. It's not even him. So now he's catfishing, stealing other people's property. And when I tell you that, okay, he grabbed my boob, but there were other incidents while I was at the party where he would just come up and start feeling me up in the guise of having a conversation with me. And because of the fact that he was throwing this party, somehow he felt that those rules that he had stolen did not apply to him. And I may have mentioned this to the party host from the other parties that we go to. He said, that guy stole my stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, if it helps you, it wasn't a great party. And he was like, what happened? And so then I told him about the Gropey McGroperson. And he was like, he texted me, I'm so sorry. And then he texted me, never again. And I said, it's all good. And he goes, never again. And I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if I've been grounded from going to other parties. I don't know. I don't know what is happening here. So it's one of those mysteries that has yet to be dissolved. One of those things where I've got to figure that part out. But it was without a doubt the most eloquent way of telling me is respect your boundaries. When you are getting messages from your brain, from your guts, from like you're feeling some kind of way, respect those. And my husband did the same thing. My husband was like, I remember this. I remember this. I remember this is a weird way to get into this particular place. I remember this. And it wasn't like it was bringing back nostalgic fun. We both felt some kind of way about what was about to happen. And we still moved forward. So me and my husband, we have to work on listening to the red flags. That is our homework. I have a fairly traumatic past. And because of that traumatic past, I did a lot of writing that was designed to exercise my trauma. Okay, designed to take, because here's the thing that happens when you're put in a traumatic situation, you are left with residue. Okay, and that residue will forever become part of you. Okay, and you can go to therapy and you can do all those things, but there are still traces of it within you. And it's how you deal with the residue of trauma that sort of either continues the cycle or breaks the cycle. Okay. So in my particular case, I wrote a lot about various and sundry things, but a lot of my stuff came out as non-consensual. And because my stuff came out non-consensual, you would think that I would be kind of okay with non-consent, but I'm not. And that was very much proved to me at this party that we went to over the weekend. When that gentleman grabbed me by my boob, as I was walking into the party without my consent, it was startling because I have become very insulated by the boundaries that are created by lifestyle. I have become very insulated by that. Nobody grabs me without my permission. Nobody grabs me without saying, may I? And so the fact that somebody, not only somebody, but the host of the party, the person who was putting this together, whose main goal was to provide a safe environment for all of us to play. The fact that he was the one doing the grabbing, that part, we should have left immediately. And because I didn't leave immediately, the man continued to do groping throughout the evening. Just random times, one quick grope, one quick grab, and that was about the extent of it. But being insulated by the party rules, being insulated by the party, and here's the thing, the fact that he had straight stolen those rules from someone else meant that he did not believe them. He did not follow them. He did not put his party in motion with any forethought. He just crib sheeted it. Okay? I am a firm believer that you do things like this with full intention so that any outcome at the end of the shenanigans, you can take full responsibility for. Okay? I am, without a doubt, a firm believer in personal responsibility. And if you are a person who is going to put other people in a situation where they are not in danger, but it's not the safest environment to be in. Because if things get out of control, people can literally get traumatized. So, but if you're that person, who was the guards? Who were the guards? Who were the people who were supposed to be watching to make sure all the play was happening consensually? I didn't see them. Everybody I saw, including the host, were playing. So, where was the protective layer? We didn't have one. And that is a lesson that I needed to obviously learn. That is a lesson I needed to obviously learn when going to these new parties. Where is the protection? If there is no protection there, then you need to just leave. You got to go. You can't, this isn't how I choose to do the partying, okay? Because even when you go to a house party, there is some built-in protection there, because there are people there who are kind of monitoring the situation, making sure everybody's having a good time. And that is what I've come to rely on. I've come to rely on that you are being watched, and therefore you need to behave the way that you're supposed to behave, because there's no play without the yay whatsoever. Okay? If you don't hear that yes, you need to ask for it. You need to ask for the yes. You need to hear them say, yes, you can touch me. Like, for me, I know that I have a very long history with non-consent, but the lifestyle has brought me to a whole new recognition of the fact that consent is vital. It's so necessary, because that is the only way that everybody is on the same page. Okay? That is the only way that everybody is in the same moment. If you're in a moment where you're like, God, I want to grab that breast, put her in that moment where she wants her breast to be grabbed. And it only takes a second. May I touch you? Yes. Grope away. So, because of the fact that I do have this trauma and this past, most of my writing is probably not fit for me to share on here. Because it is very non-consent driven, because there is something about the trauma and the things that it makes you think about that you want to be able to say, I didn't agree to it. There's something about those writings that take you away. That you need to have that deniability. So, because of the fact that I understand what it is that I was writing it for and what it is that I was writing, I'm not necessarily going to share that stuff with you. But I do have other writings that I'm going to try to locate, because I would like to share more of my writings with you. The problem is time. Oh my gosh. Like, this adulting thing blows. This adulting thing blows hard. And while I would love to do nothing but podcast and content all day long, I honestly just, I have to be an adult and go do the grown up things that are required of me. So that being said, I am in the process of putting together some writings that I can share with you again. And for today, I am going to kind of, I think, leave this episode short, because there is a piece of me that wanted to share something with you, wanted to share a piece of writing. But as I look back on the stuff that I have readily available, I don't know that I want that message out there, especially after what happened this weekend. I'm not sure that that is something that I want to be a part of. I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm consenting to non-consent. Even though if you do consensual non-consent, I am right there with you. But consensual non-consent requires contracts, and it requires agreement ahead of time to know exactly what you're in for, to know exactly what you're agreeing to. So even consensual non-consent has so much yay in it, so much yay to play. So just recognize that I see my own flaws, my own trauma, my own residues. And that's kind of why I am not sharing them with you, because while I'm absolutely fine with the fact that I have written this stuff and I have put this stuff out in the world, maybe it's not for this audience, because I want to stand by what I say in here. I want to stand by what I tell you, because that is very important to me. It's very important to me that consent be the forefront of your play. It needs to be the number one thing. So anyway, I am going to look around a little bit more. Maybe I can find something. It was a big night, her first troll for a bull. Her husband had dropped her off at the bar and drove away, requiring that she find a ride to another location before he picked her up, preferably crusted in cum. She looked down at her strappy heels that she'd thought of as her lucky heels. It had been a long time since she had pulled them out, several pounds ago for sure. The heels were a lot less comfortable than her normal flip-flop sandals, and she'd grown accustomed to. The lacy thong was gripping tightly against her tailbone, a lot less comfortable than her cotton boy shorts. She'd been a wife and a mom yesterday, and today she was a vixen on the prowl. It was time to find the bartender and make him her best friend. The dress her husband had laid out, which was much shorter and tighter than anything she'd worn for decades. Her hair was flat ironed, and if she'd had her girls with her, she would have felt great and free and happy. But she was alone and on a mission to suck some cock. Vixen challenge number 1, according to her husband. She was to get a man to drive her somewhere where she would suck his cock, make him come, preferably on her face and tits, get out of the car, and call him for a ride. Dateline always said never go to the secondary location, but this was a challenge, and he was not far away, and she was offering to give the blowjob. Nervous and drinking were a bad mix for her, so she ordered a cranberry and soda and scanned the room for a potential participant. That is when she saw him. He was at the end of the bar watching her. He was tall and had a knowing smile on his face. He was hot in a way that she'd forgotten was possible for an overweight mom to attract. But he was coming her way. She took a deep breath and prayed that her tits didn't pop out of the tube of a dress that her husband had given her. "Hi." His deep voice skittered down her spine. She smiled shakily and tried to speak. Finding her throat too dry to work, she took a quick drink. "Hi, I'm Susan. What's your name?" she said as she extended her hand. "I'm Barry." "What is a nice lady like you doing out all by herself?" "Well, Barry, I'm on a scavenger hunt." "Really? What are you looking for?" Swallowing hard, she decided to go for bold. Swallowing hard, she decided to go for bold. "A cock to suck?" I have to send photos of me sucking a cock or my husband will not pick me up. Oh, wow. Well, I have a cock. Maybe I could help. Do you have a car? Yes, I do. Then, yes, you can help. Would you like to finish your drink? Nope, I'm way past ready to go. Um, okay. She wiped her clammy palms on her dress as she stood up. Moving quicker than was wise in her strappy heels, she tottered and fell into his arms. His thick cock was hard against her belly, and Susan knew that he was not lying about being ready to go. He pulled her up and started walking her to the door. She hadn't thought she would be able to do this when the night got started. Now she knew that she could not only do it, she was going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Pineapple Pinup the Hot Wife Life podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, if you have any responses, if you have anything that you'd like to talk about, don't hesitate to hit me up at pineapplepinuppod@gmail.com. Or if you would like, you can hit me up on any of my socials that are listed in the show description.